So hi, everyone. I'll quickly introduce the speakers and the topic of discussion today as we start. So today our seminar topic is on students' transition experiences from secondary school to higher education in a time of growing diversity, their voices and how we can respond as educators. So we have two speakers today. Ms. Anthea Cheung. So Anthea teaches academic literacy and English in the discipline courses for the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Hong Kong. So is HKU Met. She supervises students of MA TESOL for the independent projects. She's also part of the management team of the Communication Support Services, which provides out-of-class language support to students. And Dr. Locky Law is an assistant lecturer at CASE, Center for Academic English Studies. So his areas of research interest are creativity, multimodality, telecinematic discourse, and digital game discourse, Gen AI literacy, systemic functional linguistics, pretty much a linguist himself. He has pioneered several frameworks and approaches in creativity and pop culture, including digital creativity, multimodal analysis, DCMA, and multiversal interreality analysis, MIRROR. And by the way, Locky is my PhD mate, and we have known each other for 10 years. And in the room also today, we have Dr. Xu Huiwen as our moderator for the seminar. So if you have any questions after the talk, or if you have any ideas or any other thoughts that you would like to share, feel free to turn on your mic, or you can type in a chat room. So this session is recorded. So after the seminar, we will share the video back to you and other colleagues who can't make it today. So without further ado, would you please give a warm welcome, virtual round of applause to Anthea and Locky. So over to you, Anthea and Locky.
All right, thank you so much for inviting us today to this seminar. So my name is Anthea. I will start first. So let's see, this outline. It's a very nice outline created by Locky. So you can see that I will be talking about the introduction and literature review. Then Locky, he will be covering the methods, and go back to me. I will talk about findings, and then Locky will continue with implications and managing research paper. That's his specialty. Okay. So today, actually, we are sharing this study that we published in the Asia Journal of Applied Linguistics. Okay, so let me start with the introduction and literature review. So to start off, I would say that the topic of student transitioning has enjoyed a sustained interest in the West. Yeah, so they're very interested in finding out about students transitioning from school to higher education, and there is a particular focus on how to keep the dropout rate low in colleges. Yeah, I think in Asia, this is relatively new area of study, and we're more interested in how to make students do better, continue to do better when they come from secondary school and come to higher education. All right, so what the literature says about student transition. So I would say in general, first-year students often find themselves lacking in time management, study skills to tackle heavy workloads while struggling to balance academic demands and their social life. So it's not just academics. Their social life is also a very important part of their life, as we all know. Okay, so yeah, so the next point is about social integration. And the social factor has been shown as a predictor of first year's students' academic success. An intimate network of support that bonds students to the larger institutional communities greatly influences their persistence in their studies. So if the students have supportive friends, peers, instructors, they are likely to do well and and stay in higher education more. That's in the Western context. And for language issues, international students in higher education must adapt to learning environment based on a language different from their first language while coping with a higher level of academic content. So we're talking about the Western context where their international students are those who do not use, for example, English or German as first language. So they struggle with these languages in the host country. So for example, they would experience anxiety in writing long essays that required discussion of complex ideas in the second or even third language. Okay, what about the local studies? So in Hong Kong, we know that students from Chinese stream schools, they were less competent in English than those from English stream schools. Yeah, and they're less equipped in understanding lectures and reading academic texts in English. And there is also a lot of interest in literature about how the mainland Chinese students are coping because they are the majority of our non-local students. So in terms of instruction type, the teacher-centered mode is more prevalent in schools in the mainland, while Hong Kong universities adopt a more westernized student-centered style in which presentation and peer discussion are common learning activities, which is new to our students from the mainland. So in terms of languages, the mainland students describe the English learning environment in China as largely exam-oriented. So some felt that English skills were insufficient to understand lectures and to complete certain learning tasks. And also, when they're with their peers, the prevalent use of Cantonese by local students resulted in these non-local students feeling excluded. So these are reported from the local studies. So let's look at some major changes in higher education. So apart from AI, okay, another major change would be Hong Kong is to become a international education hub, right? And if you have been following the news, so you would know that the quota for non-local students in post-secondary institutions have been risen to 40% from 2024 to 25 onwards, and further lifted to 50 from 26 to 27 onwards. Right, so this policy change has major implications. We're likely to have more diverse student population, but a lot of these non-local students will be from mainland China, bringing with them different backgrounds, education, experiences, and expectations. Because even within mainland China, there are so many regions, right? The first line city, second line cities, they're all very different. Yeah. So these changes will probably make students' adjustment process to become more complex. Okay, so these are our research questions. We have three. So the first one is about what are the academic and social challenges faced by the first year undergraduate students from these diverse backgrounds. Number two is we want to know their priorities for skill development, right? So what kind of skills do they think they want most? And we wanted to identify whether there are any intention behavior gaps. And third is about what strategies and resources do they employ to mitigate their challenges, and how can we educators in universities help them better. Okay, so now I will pass the time to Locky on methods. Let me close my slides. Okay, Locky, back to you.
Thank you, Anthea. That was great. I wasn't expecting it to be so quick. Anyway, can you all see my screen right here? Can you all see my screen?
Not yet.
Oh, not yet?
Okay, now yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Now yes.
now yes. Okay, right. So that's something weird happening. Now okay? Right. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the methods part, and here we go. Okay, so basically, of course, when we do any project research, we need to have some established framework, right, for us to make reference to. The one that we chose, it's by Criswell and Gertzman. Actually, it's actually not really their method, so to speak. It's mostly like their textbook. Like this is a really good textbook, and then they have documented a number of different methods. So we picked this one called explanatory sequential mixed methods. And it looks like this, right? So starting from the quantitative online survey and questionnaires, then analyze. After that, you've got the quantitative results, right? And after that, then you take those results and then you create semi-structured interview questions, and then you do further analysis. Then after that, you do the qualitative results analysis, right? So you have the results, and then you think about, lastly, for this part, that you think about what do these qualitative and quantitative results actually mean, right? So that's the usual approach, right? And after that, we actually further enhanced, if you like, or just to make it even better, by looking at the combination of qualitative and quantitative results. And then from there, we proposed some hypotheses, which we have in mind. But because these are hypotheses, we need to sort of test them out if possible. But because of the small sample sizes that we, at that time, so we cannot actually confirm anything, but rather we let our students, right, our participants, to tell us what they think about our hypotheses, right? Which is normally something that really in the scientific world they won't do, right? Because they usually have a fixed number of participants and they'll always be there. We go for this approach because of one simple reason, and that is we don't have funding. And that's why these students, they, from large sample size to medium sample size to very small sample size. And so that's why this is the best approach we can have, right? Which is basically letting them know what our hypotheses are, and ask them for their views, whether they think it is reasonable or not. So after that, then it's interpreting if the hypotheses will need to be refined after the participants tell us about them, which is quite innovative in a way, because yeah, I guess nobody has ever done that. In terms of data collection design and theoretical lens, just now when Anthea was talking about her part, that she also cited Tinto, so Vincent Tinto. Basically, we based on his suggestions when creating the questionnaire questions, and then also next would be Heschel, Sharon and Webb, and they are the authors of the article on the right, okay, the intention behavior gap. And that's, of course, the main thing of our research study, okay, the main focus. Okay, so the data collection and analysis process, we actually have a multi-stage design for this. So I'm going to go into each of these step by step. All right, so taking a closer look, first of all, all right, so we have the strategic framework and coding that's going to be involved. And like I said, we base on Tinto's model for the design of the questionnaire. And then we look at Sharon and Webb's intentional behavior gap. All right, and then the coding is also done in a number of ways. So we have descriptive, in vivo, so on and so forth. So it's written here. The last bit here, the time machine method, well, it's actually what AI created for us. We didn't actually call it time machine method. But anyway, it's a hypothetical situation question that we pose to the students, and we want to ask them like, I'll explain more later, but actually hypothetical situation. It's actually quite fun. So I'll go into that when we get there. So phase one is the quantitative discovery, where at first we had 94 students at the beginning. 5-point Likert scale open-ended questionnaire was conducted starting from 2022, right, November. So quite a number of years ago. And then phase two is the qualitative ones, right? As we saw the flow diagram just now. And so we invited the students. 9 of them said they would, join. And so they participated in our semi-structured interviews, and that happened about a year later, so February 2023 to January 2024. And as you can see, the numbers keep shrinking, right? And now it's 2025 November, all right? And by that time, we can only retrieve three of these students from the last 9 of them, right? The last 9 students now down to 3. So we want them to give us the feedback on our hypotheses and see how they think about think about them, basically. All right. So the time, so I previously already mentioned this one. That's the time machine method. Basically is asking students what they would say to their old self had they got the chance to talk to themselves when they were in year 1. So you see how the hypothetical and time traveling appears? But you are now, right, final year or second year or third year. So what would you tell your first year self on how to cope better, right? If you had a chance to talk to yourself. So yeah, really kind of interesting. So this is just a table, right, that kind of summarizes the compositions of our participants. So 52 from Hong Kong and 36 from mainland, 6 other international regions, so total 94. And then the 9 interview participants are from Hong Kong, Taiwan, mainland China, Philippines, so on and so forth, right, as you can see here. And then also coming from different programs, both female, male, pretty much balanced. More, of course, we get a few more ladies than we do for the guys. But yeah, we've got English programs, business, physics, engineering, law, and social sciences. So which is pretty good coverage, if you like. Now the 3 students who had an asterisk at the end are like L98, M100, and L104, and they actually participated in the third round, the third stage, which is the hypothetical situation questions. Yep. And so just a quick look at what our questions were like at the beginning. So this is actually the third round, right? Round 3, when the 3 students were given our hypotheses. And so when we ask them these questions, we give them the context to begin with, so they know what to expect, right? We give them the context about the 2024, and then the increment of the cap, right, from 20% to 40% non-local students. So we give them a table, and then we ask them like, question 1 is basically, do you feel any difference, right? So now that the cap has been increased. So pretty general questions to begin with, right? So question 1. Question 2, we also give them the context, and we kind of already leading them towards what we found about the intentional behavior gap. So we said that students in our study said improving their English is important for doing well at university, academically and socially. However, we also found that some students prefer to read in their own languages, like, for example, Chinese, right? And so at the same time, some local students and mainland students often use their native language among themselves, which is something that we all know, right? And then we're kind of like, hey, we're thinking that there might be some intention and behavior differences there. We call it intention behavior gap. And so what do you think, right? How much do you agree? All right, question 3, similarly, and again, we're trying to give them another situation, another scenario where we say maybe students in our studies also believe that the benefits of collaborating with their classmates and learning from each other is very good. It's even better than passively listening to the teachers, right? That's common theme we found from our study. But then they also, like, after knowing the benefits, that they're not really happy to work as a group. Like, so it is good to work together to learn from classmates. Why are you not doing it? Okay. And so we give them something like, maybe could it be some group members actually work on their own, or free writer, whatever. right? So, and then we ask them, what do you feel about that? Did anything like that similar experience you have faced before? So then it's pretty open-ended, as you can see. Finally, that's our last question. So you discover a time machine and take you back to year one, and I'll let you talk to your own self for 5 minutes only. So what kind of suggestions would you give to yourself if you were in year one at Hong Kong? And this is a very good question. So we found something very, very fun. And we'll cover that a bit later. So I'm passing this back to Anthea right now. Okay.
So can you unshare, Locky?
Yes, I am trying to unshare, but I actually don't have that unshare button. Okay, let me say stop sharing. Okay, there you go.
Okay. So
Sorry for the
share.
trouble, everybody. Sorry for the trouble.
No problem. Okay. Oops, I have to jump to the end. Right, so my part about findings now. So this is the form that shows the questionnaire responses. So you can see the Likert scale is here, and then we divide it into different parts. But I will actually share with you another table, which is easier to see, right? So there are 3 parts in the questionnaire with different questions. So part A is about in-class learning. So inside the classroom, how do they feel? And then part B is about communication with peers and teaching staff. And this is likely to happen outside the classroom. And part C is about their own self-management. So you can see here, those are the high numbers are actually about in-class learning. So, okay, let me use this laser pointer. Okay, yeah. So, the highest number is actually following lectures and tutors. So the participants do not have big issues about following lectures. What are the low numbers? So you can see is about 61.7 here is about enjoy working with my classmates. So they don't really enjoy a lot working with their classmates to complete group assignment is 61.7. So the lower the number means the least they agree with the statements here. Yeah, the highest number means they agree more. Yeah, so the next lowest number is I often interact with other students to learn from each other to obtain useful information. So for example, face-to-face, WhatsApp. Yeah, so that's 58. The lowest number is here. So they agree with this statement the least, which is I can find sufficient time to complete assignments and other assigned tasks such as readings and worksheets. So this is not surprising, right? Not finding enough time is not surprising. But what's surprising is that they don't enjoy working with their peers that much, right? Or they find it difficult. They find it difficult to do that. Okay. And we also ask them what skills do you wish to acquire? And this question is actually an open-ended question. We did not give them like multiple choice to choose from. They just enter text in the questionnaire. So what have we found? English. English is what they want. They most indicated as most desired skills to develop. So all this related to the English language. So these are the keywords, right? Speaking, writing, listening, reading. Altogether is actually 48.5%. Right. So others skills would be about communication, like general communication, interaction, collaboration skills, and also some indicated Cantonese. They wanted to develop most. And then we also have self management, time management, stress or financial management, and some indicated study skills and all that. Yeah. Yeah, so that's what they put for, what skills they wish to acquire most. Okay, so what are the major themes in our findings? So these are the 4 major themes, and I will explain each one. Okay, so the first one is academic engagement, right? So from our data, the student tells us that understanding course content was not a major concern. However, some lectures were more difficult than others due to various reasons, such as, the lecturer using technical terms without explanation, or the instructors speaking too fast. Some even mention instructors' accents were difficult to understand. And as a result, some participants had to rely on listening to lecture recordings and studying presentation slides. But this could be difficult when slides did not contain enough text to be self-explanatory. So we know that actually the recordings, our presentation slides, are pretty important for our students. Right. And generally, our participants view teaching staff as mostly approachable and responsive. They frequently use emails to communicate with staff when they had questions. Right. So we can say that while emailing is an efficient channel for students to seek help from faculty, is apparently not sufficient for high quality academic engagement to take form. So I think we can recall, those times when students write emails to us. A lot of the emails are about logistics, about things that we have already mentioned in class. So they ask again, right? We don't receive a lot of emails where students ask very deep questions. So Luke, which is a mathematics professor, he observed that young university students tended to rely on lectures and individual hard work, but missed out on having informal discussions with peers and instructors to clarify concepts and open their eyes. So this is quite a significant statement, right? So I think students are still, especially those are fresh from secondary school, they are still using that kind of mode of secondary education where they study and study and study, but they don't really think about, what about, talking to my professor, talking to my lecturer, just exploring things. So they don't really think about that. And according to Luke, these students miss out on developing themselves intellectually. How about language barrier? So some participants avoided completing learning tasks in English or using English in certain real-life situations. How do we know? So one interviewee told us that she preferred to communicate with her project mates using text messaging instead of having face-to-face communications in English, because she is not a Cantonese speaker, so she would need to use English if she talked to the local students. And she said that, that kind of face-to-face communication in English is messy. So she thinks that, using text messaging is better. Okay, another interviewee preferred to read in Chinese to grasp difficult concepts more quickly. So what this interviewee told us is that she would use some online tool to translate English text to Chinese. She read first to understand the difficult part, and then she will process the in English. So just to add that, these students are talking not just about like our English courses. They're talking about a lot of their content courses, right? And in academic discussions, some local students and mainland students often use their native language among themselves in the presence of others who do not share their languages. So I think this is like what we have been observing, right? In when you walk around the classroom, you see some of them doing that, and they do that even more when they have their own group discussion, apparently. So yeah, you can see that, they from here you can see that they do some kind of avoidance of using English. However, in the questionnaire, remember we asked them, what would you like to improve most? They actually said English, right? So English was identified as the most important area for improvement to achieve academic and social success. Yeah, and yet they are not really practicing using English in real life. So to us, we'll say that it is an intention behavior gap. Like they wanted to improve and they wanted better English, but they are in real life, they are not putting that into action. In terms of self-management, so time management for meeting academic demands received the lowest score in the questionnaire. So that's, from our questionnaire I showed you just now. So in the interviews, a number of participants highlighted that managing various administrative or miscellaneous tasks are stressful to them. So not just academic demands. A lot of our participants in the interviews, they actually talk about their daily life, managing themselves in their daily lives. For example, they talk about paying school fees, that meeting the deadline to pay school fee, registering for courses. When the semester open, when they have to register for courses, it's difficult because they sometimes they cannot register for their most desirable courses, because those are already full when they get to do it. And one interviewee told us that he struggled with unfamiliar domestic problems concerning the accommodation. So this is an interviewee that's not a local person, so he has to find a place to stay on his own, and that was, a problematic area for him. So the literature told us the same. Self-management often extend beyond academic learning into the domain of personal life. Okay, and so the impact of changes in independence is likely to be more pronounced for students coming from a highly regulated school environment, which is when their teachers or their school helps to arrange a lot of the daily schedule when they were still in secondary school. So that's what we meant by highly regulated school environment. And also for non-local students who have left their protective families in their hometown to attend university. So look at this transcript from one of our interviewees. He said, I think I'm quite an independent learner, but not managing myself so well. I found I cannot always catch the deadline. In high school, the teacher points out all the deadlines for us. We have a calendar and the teacher will send you a message when approaching the deadline through WeChat or something, not email. And we had classmates who always have the same deadline with me. So it's really hard for me to miss the deadline. He was talking about in secondary school time. But at the university, it's really often not only me, but also others just miss the deadline. And we did not perform well because of this. Yeah, so this is from one of our interviewees. How about peer engagement? So our participants generally understood the benefits of collaborating with peers and learning from each other. They view peers as valuable resource for academic adaptation, intellectual development, and emotional support. However, as you saw in our results of the questionnaire, many participants expressed dissatisfaction with the experience of working with peers in group assignments and networking. Yeah, so that's just now from the questionnaire. And a lot of students mentioned about having unresponsive group members. They complain about free riders in group assignments. So we identify as another intention behavior gap. Yeah, so they know that working with peers is good for them, and yet some do not really participated well in this kind of peer group works or peer networking. So we thought about why. Why is that the case? So we come up with these possible reasons. Number one is lack of a fixed group of classmates to share common experiences. So we know that in higher education, very different from secondary school, they don't go to the fixed classroom, they don't see a fixed group of classmates anymore, right? So that is a big change. And also peer competition that's mentioned by some of our interviewees. Also, there's self-segregation into racial ethnic groups on campus. So very often you see a big group of mainland Chinese students together in the canteen, big groups of Indonesian students together because they speak Indonesian, and different ethnic groups on campus. So we have this from one of our interviewee, and what she said was very telling. So she said that I find that friendship at the university is broad but shallow. There's no fixed classroom, no breaks when you can chat or go to classes together. You see different people in different classes, so it's hard to make friends. Many people says in the university, a lot of friends are just hi, bye friends. Even when you've got to make some friends and you want to meet them up for meals, but they may not be free. Yeah, so this tells us a lot about, that kind of the difficulties for our first year students to develop a close peer network. Yeah. Okay, I finished my part now. So Locky, passing on the time to you now.
Thank you, Anthea. All right, so again, I'm going to continue sharing my part. This part will be very, very short because the next part I will also invite Anthea to chime in. She doesn't know that. She thought I'm going to talk about all of that by myself. Okay, so the implication for our research up to this point, right? Intention, behavior gaps in language use, and peer collaboration. So three main things. First one is institutional support should not only address skill deficits, as we mostly want them to, to be better at this, better at that, but also actually fostering the environments that encourage authentic practice and intercultural interactions. Like, I don't know, for now, we're mostly letting students do all these. What it means by intercultural interaction? Well, they want to group together, they group together. If they want to have a society, then go join a society by yourself. Everything themselves, right? There's not much of a help from the so maybe from our side or maybe from the institutional side of those. Yes, maybe there are departments that are supposed to do that, but how often does that happen, right? How often does that happen? Maybe a few times a year, have some events where they can meet together. I don't. So it's not very often that we actually try to do anything for students in that sense. At least for our university, Hong Kong U. The second one, okay, provide opportunities for peer networking. All right, that aligns with students' actual challenges rather than their stated aspirations. So they state a lot of different things they want, right? But as we can see, it's like I want this, but they're not doing it. So in a way that we could actually help them, or the schools, the institutions can actually help them by giving them these chances to really just meet together and maybe to develop skills that we know they are going to need, right? Rather than, oh, I need English. And so let's do some workshop in English, that kind. I mean, that's definitely something we are already doing. A lot of institutions are already doing, right? There's courses and workshops, but what really is they're not missing, they don't really need more of these workshops and courses, but rather like opportunities where they can build a friendship while they are learning. That is way more important. So yeah, so they feel more comfortable as they learn and therefore maybe more effective as well. The third point, promote self-awareness and adaptive strategies, helping students to bridge the gap between their intention and behavior by specifically like telling them, we see this, there's a pattern when students intend to do something, yet they're not doing, the behaviors don't follow. So letting them know that there's such a thing, hopefully that can enhance both their academic success and their personal well-being. Because if you know, you may be able to actually do something about it, or maybe they could ask the teachers or our administrative staff or the relevant departments to do something for them if they know that there's such a thing, right? If they realize it's a So, all right, this is the part where I'm actually going to ask Anthea to chime in. All right, managing research projects. But first, I'm going to go first, right? Based on what we have been facing so far. We're gonna look at the right side here. There's the forgot my laser pointer. Sorry, the right side. So a roadmap for planning. If you are thinking about maybe running your own project or even already are doing a project yourself, the ideal research project plan, it's always good to have a roadmap for that at the beginning, ideal, right? And then definitely read a lot, sourcing literature, relevant literature, having the theoretical frameworks that does the Q and Q. So Q, first Q, quantitative, and the second Q is qualitative, of course. So you need to have frameworks that actually supports what you are going to ask, what data you're going to get. Think about sample sizes, and that's the one that we were facing we faced problem or issues with. And of course, everybody knows about the analysis and analysis part, but also I think important aspect or important lesson that we picked out would be what kind of hypothesis can we draw after the analysis part. So that really helped us to produce this paper that we have. And also, if you're thinking about publishing in journals, that what are the journals' expectations? And that also is very important because Anthea and I actually have tried a lot of different journals before we got published. We got it published. So, yep, that's that. So overall, coming back to the left side, have a research project plan, even if it's not ideal. That's because ideally every project should have a plan, and that research project plan should have room for expansion or adjustment. And we focus on these two things, expansion or adjustments, because yeah, and we will talk about that later on. Actually, it's at the bottom here. Because the project that we have completed here, with introducing here, was not even planned to be a longitudinal study at the beginning. We didn't plan that longitudinal study. It wasn't like that. And in fact, the intention behavior gap wasn't even part of the focus at the beginning. Which is why if your plan, your ideal research project plan has room for expansion and adjustments, that would be great. And also researchers should also be open-minded about changing the research focus if data supports it. Meaning if your data, your analysis, right, shows that there might be something else that is way more important, you might actually want to shift that focus to that angle. And that's what happened to us. We didn't actually start off with the intention behavior gap, but the data kind of show that, and then we move on to that, and now we got a new focus. And then we also switched to the longitudinal study, so to speak. Does Anthea want to add on anything here?
I would say that anyone can be a researcher because for me, I mean, I started the project because of another study, which is really is the preparation work for a module that we have to produce for first-year students to help them to adjust to university studies. So, and then later I thought, oh, we have nice data, why not make it into a proper study? But I struggle a lot. Finally, I got Locky to help me. That's why, he mentioned about, being open-minded and changing the focus. That's, when he came in and he helped me a lot with, finding a good focus so that it will look more refreshing to the journals. Yeah. So that's that's our journey of completing this study and publishing the paper. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Anthea. And so the next part is thank you, Q&A time. Right? And thank you very much for being here and listening to us. Does anybody have any questions? Just stop sharing the screen for now. Does anybody have any questions?
Much. Thank you, Locky. Thank you, Anthea. Any colleagues or just people in the audience, if you have any questions, comments, or observations, feel free to ask Locky and Anthea. They're here to, just have discussions. I think they're very open-minded, as you can see from their research. and their collaboration. So do we have any question in the audience, from the audience?
Yeah, you can just unmute yourself instead of typing in the chat.
Well, I find, I find it very, what's really illuminating for me is the part where you mentioned the gap between their intention and their behavior, right? I think it's almost like expectation management, but also the way that they say they want to learn English, but then they wouldn't do what is necessary to achieve that, which is really, really interesting. I think that's a very important thing to address. I do have a question about because in your when you're talking about what's important in like for students, they mention that the extra resources, right, the online recording or whatever is very important for them for their learning. Um, do you think it is possible? Like, I actually feel that university students this day and age probably have too many distractions. Like, do you feel that they have too many resources in a sense that is distracting them from like the academic focus, or, you know, just basically they have too many baskets, they have too many commitments that it's very hard for them to, for example, ask that deep question and be very deeply engaged in a learning or academic not yearning, but like a quest of some sort. Yeah. Is that what you have found as well in your research or your interviews with the students?
Yeah,
Anthea, go
definitely.
first. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if you look at literature in the West,
Mm,
they
yeah.
would talk a lot about students having to work part-time. Because I think, I mean, it's the culture, when you go to university, you're expected to be on your own. So they
Mm,
have to spend hours working part-time job, and if they don't stay on campus, then they will have to travel a lot. So this causes, you know, it's a factor for their dropouts. But I think for Asian, like in Hong Kong, it's a little bit different because of
mm,
a lot of students are well supported by their families. It's really about the material kind of like from the material world. There's so many things
yeah,
to have fun with, and then also
true.
the universities have so many activities for them, and then
Yeah,
yeah, the student will say, oh, they want to join so many things. And if they stay in hall, is also some halls are quite demanding of their time, and they come to
yeah,
class very tired. Yeah, so it's that's why, when it comes to self-management, it's sometimes it's not because they have a lot of assignments. It's because they have a lot of activities. Yeah, so
mm,
students do have to think about how the prioritizing their time, how they use their time wisely so that they can, both their academics and social life can develop at the same time. It's not easy, really, actually.
yeah. I think it's very demanding, like this day and age for university students. Do you actually, in your research, do you observe like a very distinctive difference between mainland students and Hong Kong local students, or do they struggle with similar things, or but in comparison, they might have similar and different struggles, right? So, um, what is in common and what is distinctively a mainland student problem and a Hong Kong student problem?
Lucky, you want to
Oh,
uh,
you go
comment
first. You
on
go
this?
first. You go first. Yeah, you go.
I think like when we yeah, based on our data, for mainland students, yeah, you see that the recurring themes were languages,
Yeah,
and um and the the managing the accommodation. Something is related to their accommodation because they have to live on their own. Some in Hong Kong U, some of them don't get the hall of residence. They have to stay outside. It was so challenging for them because they've been like in their own hometown, they were quite protected, and now they have to stay on their own. They said, "Oh, there are ants everywhere. There's not enough space for me. I wish my furniture is all tinier so that I can squeeze into my tiny room." They mentioned a lot about languages and also their accommodation. Yeah.
We'll address Franco's question. Locky, do you have something to add to that, and then otherwise I'll move on to Franco.
Maybe Franco first, and then I'll come back because I've got
that's
something
great.
that I want to say.
Franco.
Hello. First of all, thank you so much for sharing from Anthea and also Locky. Quite inspiring as I've been actually teaching a lot of mainlanders nowadays here on campus, no matter whether it's actually falling on to the bachelor degree, master degree, or maybe doctoral degree as well. I've just got two simple questions. Out of my curiosity, first of all, maybe I'm a layman, I don't know, but to a certain extent, I always think postgraduates and also undergraduates in Hong Kong U are actually using excellent English, no matter whether they are actually local or they're not local, like those who are coming from mainland. So is it actually from the perspectives or the point of view here from of the two researchers, is it actually the case that the mainland students are somehow narcissistic in the way that they thought they were not like using good English, but they are actually using quite nice for their English proficiency, especially academically? Or it is really the case that they really suffer from some sort of deficiency in using English orally or in a written way? And that's number one. And number two, nowadays when we've been actually teaching or we are actually coaching students here to finish their academic homework, we always found like me, I myself, I always observe that my students from mainland are using the AI assisted translating app when they were listening to the class, and they've been actually doing a lot, or maybe even if I'm actually giving them the PPT or some sort of handouts or visualized registration in English, but they would immediately here spontaneously here fill it into Doubao and translate all of them here into Chinese words. So do you think according to the tech line here that you are presenting in your project, these kind of AI powered tools are helping the mainland student to handle or to further enhance their academic English, or would be actually post a kind of fumbling stop block for them to further enhance or enrich their English proficiency when they are actually studying in Hong Kong U? Thank you. That's my questions.
Locky, you want to address these questions first?
You can answer the first part and then I answer the AI part maybe.
Oh, okay. I answer the first part. Yes and no, Franco, for our mainland students. So based on our data and also our observation, mainland students are not of one shape. There's also a diversity in their language ability. Like, if talking about our interviewees, actually a lot of our interviewees are pretty good in their language. Therefore, they agree to be interviewed.
I see.
Yeah. So of course, in our classes, we also observe mainland students. Some mainland students have really weaker proficiency in terms of oral English, so they're more shy to speak. So to answer your question, it's quite diverse, their English proficiency. I also have top students who are from the mainland. They were hardworking. They already came with good proficiency, so they came up top in the class. I also have like bottom ones that are, they struggle a lot. Yeah, like what you said, they use AI a lot, but then I don't see them improving as much.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. Yeah. Thank you, Anthea.
So the second part of that is it's like how, sorry, can you repeat again? So basically how they're often using AI, right? And to do their work. Am I right? Or is that missing something?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's
You were
like
saying
the kind of software, right? They use a lot of translating, like AI translating software, which could be enhancing their English learning, but also could be actually get in the way of them getting the authentic English learning.
Sure.
But we
Sure,
observe
yeah.
that they're using it, they're relying on these AI tools a
Yeah.
lot in the classroom. Yeah.
I mean, just a
Correct.
quick prompt here. As long as I've been actually, I got some inspiration from the scholarly work from Anthea and also Locky. So I just feel doubted about whether using some sort of tools to assist them to listen to a lecture, or maybe they're using some sort of AI tools to help them to finish the homework is a kind of behavior which can actually match the intention to enrich the English, or maybe this behavior is actually preventing them or deterring them from further enhancing their academic English. I struggle, so that's why I would like to consult. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, very, very good question. And I want to just maybe take you guys to one of my lessons yesterday, or and today, this morning. So, I'm teaching this summer course, right, on creativity, and I have only got 5 students in this class. So usually the enrollment is not a lot, but this one is particularly small. So basically, I sit with them on a round table, and we get very close together. And then in that course, I don't really like give or show them too much. I don't talk too much. I facilitate in a sense. I give them some, for example, first lesson was on history of creativity, how creativity has evolved, right? From BC 5,500 year till today, all the way to today. And so I give them quotes of scholars who talked about the phenomenon at a different time of the year, right? So it's like Egyptian time, Renaissance, and then the Victoria, and then maybe up till today, right? What happens is what I see is I'm not giving them a lot of things on the slides. They are way more intellectually willing to think, to be critical, and ask questions. Now, going back to the part when we talk about English teaching, English classes, I don't know about your school or your institution, but for our case, for my center, a lot of students are asking for more. I want detailed lecture slides, right? Lecture slides. I need to have questions. I need to have answers. I need to have explanations. I need to have everything. The more, the better. By giving them that, or what they wanted, intention, we actually hindering their critical thinking. We're actually hindering their questioning. They have all the lecture slides. They have all the PowerPoints. They have all the documents. They feed it into AI. They get the answers quickly. They don't need to think. So what happens to the attendance? Because attendance is not compulsory, or we tell them it's compulsory. In fact, it isn't. So what happens is they tend to want to come to classes less. If they do come, they're not listening because they come from attendance. I have everything in my notes. My AI can interpret and can summarize everything for me. I don't need the question. You're not asking me questions, so I'm not answering anything. You're just reading out your lecture slides. So are we actually the people who are enhancing this vicious cycle, this loop, by actually giving them what they want? Because they want to learn English. They want to be good. They want to be able to communicate. But because we give them too much, so much, that they can learn independently. You know what I mean? So they don't need to have critical thinking. So in these 2 days, right, in my little summer course, because I give them just bare minimum, right, some quotes from these scholars, and then I ask them, what do you think about it? What are your views about this? I give them prompting questions, and then they talk, and then they keep talking each other. They keep thinking. at the end of the first day, right, 2.5 hours, they were like, I love this. I love the way that this course is going because I feel intellectually stimulated. I feel that university that they said, right? They said that universities should be like this, where they trigger our thinking. They triggered, I mean, the teachers can trigger our thinking, can trigger our critical thinking, or just making us want to learn and find our answers. And they want that stimulation. But for now, a lot of courses, whether it's design or not, it's just giving. We're giving.
Yeah.
Whether they take
Yeah.
it or not, it's a different thing. So I want everybody here who's attending today's lessons, today's webinar, like ask yourself actually how many times you ask questions in your classes. And how many of these questions, how many of these questions are actually in-depth questions, not superficial questions, like not like, hey, this is the sentence, where is the error? Not like that, but really in-depth questions to get them to give you that. How many of you are actually doing that? Because I asked myself this question too. Now, after these few days, I'm actually thinking like, come on, are we actually enhancing this vicious cycle? Yeah.
Yeah.
So going back to the AI thing,
Agree.
I think that kind of answers that as well. You know?
Yeah, agree. Totally agree with it. Thank you.
I do have another question about shifting focus in your research. Because you said we need to learn to be flexible, and we need to. So in the process of this particular research project, which congratulations, it's published, and obviously it's not easy to get things published these days. And so what did you have to do? What are the things that you have to shift? Or to kind of work out this puzzle in the process? What did you change? What did you decide to kind of remain as your core question that cannot be changed? And how do you facilitate this kind of collaboration of two minds, right? At least two minds.
I'll let Anthea go first.
There's a pattern here.
Okay.
The ladies first.
I think what changed was so what we added on when Locky joined me as a co-researcher was putting the context into the non-local student expansion as the background. So originally, this was not in the study. This one, an intention behavior gap. So why did we do that? That is to differentiate our studies from the existing literature.
Yeah.
So our study can stand out. Otherwise, our study is not as refreshing.
Yeah.
So didn't get the opportunity to publish. So these are thanks to Locky. So now your time. Okay, Locky, can you share?
Yeah, I need some supporting things again. So the slides, right? You've seen this one. So at the beginning, we only went for the purple one. As most people, when they do mixed methods design, the purple path is general one. All right. So you start with quantitative and then qualitative. So the usual things. But problem also what Anthea mentioned is like a lot of studies already doing that. And for us at the beginning, we were doing a transitioning project, and it wasn't anything new. We tried a few journals. Of course, every time we try, we have to wait for months for them to get back to us. And desk rejection was a very common thing. I think we tried like 4 or 5 different journals before we fall back to the current one, the AJL. And all of them came back either desk rejection or with some comments. I think we get 2 rounds of reviewers comments from 2 different journals. And of course, we made changes based on their suggestions as well. But then really going back is like, what's so special about your work? You know, apart from the fact that you are doing an Asian context one, what's so special about it? I mean, transitioning everywhere is the same. That's usually generally their comment. Everybody faced the same stuff, same difficulties. Year 1, of course, they're doing the language and you know, grouping and all that. That's nothing new to us. So So we went back to the data and we say, hey, maybe there's something here that we can explore, right? Rather than just what we had at that time. And we saw the gaps, and then we start finding whether there's anything in psychology that talks about these kind of gaps. We don't even know the name. We didn't even know the name until we found something. And then the scholars were calling it intention behavior gap. And then we looked into that, we read up more. So that was the reading part. And after that, we then also thought about, hey, we still cannot use what we currently have to explain the gaps because we don't have a good sample size, and we don't have access to the previous 90 something students already, because that's like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
Because that was not planned at all, right? That was not planned, and we had no funding, so there's no way we could keep these students in contact. So then I thought about, hey, maybe we could just propose some hypotheses and get some of the students from the 9 interviewees to give us their view. So then we created the orange path, which then gives us like a new insight or a new approach in terms of design. And I think this is actually quite inspirational in a sense, and also hopefully can be quite impactful for those who are also like us, doing a project at our free time, no funding, yet we want to make use of our findings and hopefully can make a difference, right? So this orange additional path would allow anybody who's don't have a lot of samples, right, to contact, or a lot of students to contact, lack of funding, and this would at least give us some more, extension to the work. And I highly recommend everybody to try it out. I mean, if your sample size continues to be large, this is going to be fine. This is going to be workable. But if it's like continuously getting fewer and fewer, this is also in a way quite valuable, because the orange path is basically the qualitative side of things, right? So you're talking to the students and going further in, and because it's what makes this interesting is the time span. So we started in 2022. Then the middle part, when we get the first round of qualitative, the last purple box, that would be 2020, about 2024, 2025, right? And then the orange path is the latest path. So we have a long span of time, so-called longitudinal, so we can make that difference or at least show that difference to the journals. Yeah. So
I find that really inspiring, because it's almost like the students are participating in the final act, right? So if you think of it as like a 3-act show, speaking of Shakespeare, like it's like you had this thing, and then at the end, the students almost become part of the research. Like, what do you think about our hypotheses? And it's a kind of participatory research, and it's very innovative, and then they provide new insight. I think I have overrun this,
sorry.
but this is really fascinating, and it's I can see there's a lot of heart and a lot of hard work going into this. Sorry, Locky, I think you mentioned something about time machine. The time machine question really fascinates me. I think you said something like, "I'm going to go back to this," but you didn't. So, so can
Oh,
you
you mean the
just make
time
a
machine
1
question?
or 2 sentence kind
Yeah.
of comment on that question? Because I think that's a fantastic question. And also, how did students respond to it? And why did you come up with this question?
Yeah. Well, because the time is so limited, I'm going to not tell you, but ask you to read the paper. Actually, our paper included their responses to that question, and it's really, really fun to just actually read how they talk to themselves, the suggestions they gave themselves, going back, had they got the chance to talk to themselves back in year 1, what advices would they give them? I mean, like, I think that's great. It's fantastic, because really, like, how many of us will actually think about this question? Again, the critical part of it, it's reflection, right? And we always stress the importance of self-reflection, but how often do we do that? We ask students to write reflective essays, but things to do with their life, You know, how would you change your life had you got a chance to go back? What kind of advice would you give yourself? Or how would you improve had you got a chance to talk to yourself again, right, through a time machine? So it's really, really cool. Just even think about that. So I highly recommend everybody to read that part of the students' responses. And yeah, I'm keeping those
I'll
answers.
definitely give your paper a read. Thank you so much,
Thank
Anthea.
you.
Thank you, Locky. I think
Eric
Eric
is
is
back.
back in the in the room. And thank you all for taking part in this really interesting